Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and Merry Christmas, and thanks for joining us for this Thursday's edition of Alaska Weather. On satellite imagery here of the Northwest Pacific, there's the next storm out there pushing in across the western Aleutians with the front having crossed the western chain there earlier this afternoon or later this afternoon, and all the cold air coming in from the Sea of Okhotsk wrapping into the center there, and that whole system moving off to the east. On the Gulf of Alaska shot here, see low pressure sliding on up into the Bristol Bay area, and that's sending surges of moisture into the interior. One batch coming through bringing a couple inches of snow to Anchorage today, and even heavier amounts up the valley north of Trapper Creek there to, well, where it's the upslope areas there north of Trapper Creek. And there's a snow advisory out until midnight tonight for another couple inches of snow, with up to as much as 9 inches having fallen. Colder air back to the northwest of that, and a little bit milder southwest flow there, bringing some clouds and rain into the southeast coast, with the kind of a enhanced area of showers back here, actually trailing back from Togiak Bay all the way down toward the Cold Bay, Cape Sarachev area. And on the chart today, there's a system coming into the west with a heavy wind and rain and clouds associated with it, and a little bit of a break here, trough right through here with those showers, and another trough up through here, as well as the one I have drawn in the interior, and that stretches down to the southeast coast. For tonight, that moisture will continue to move up to the northeast, so periods of snow all the way over to the border, but mostly due to the Alaska range there, areas like Tok, Northway, and anywhere on the northeast side, we'll see lesser amounts, but a little more in the way of snow, especially back to the northwest. The Kobuk-Koyukuk valleys have a snow advisory out, or a winter weather advisory due to snow, looking for another couple inches, 1 to 2 inches tonight and 1 to 2 inches tomorrow. And then the advisory ends tomorrow afternoon when the snow ends, and then this band of snow coming into Bristol Bay tonight, right up in along the Alaska range. Not too bad over Cook Inlet. Snow showers lingering in the Susitna Valley, but tapering off. And then the warmer air associated with those southerly winds bringing the, or with the gale force southerlies there, bringing warmer air up and changing the snow to rain here for the eastern Aleutians, but still snow and then snow showers and gusty southwest winds coming in behind there with the main center. And scattered rain and snow showers here over the southeast coast, a little more continuous possibly, but nothing too heavy up to the north. And the Copper River Basin, Wrangell Mountains specifically, and along the Coast Range, areas of snow. That turns to rain out over the Gulf there, and got this low coming up, moisture actually just feeding right up on into the southeast interior, and some flurries and light snow along the Arctic coast with high pressure, keeping it kind of chilly and dry out over the Seward Peninsula and down across the St. Lawrence Island area, and actually extending all the way down to Nunivak Island with snow just about ready to move into the Pribilofs. And that does just that by tomorrow morning, and those southerly winds starting out as snow, changing over to mixed rain and snow, and then this area of green could slide on up and change it to all rain by about this time or later in the afternoon tomorrow for a short time till the front goes through and that freezing levels drop behind it. But snow, possible blowing snow on the increase here for St. Lawrence Island. And again, the snow advisories have ended here over the interior areas, but still some hit and miss flurries, variable cloudiness, that sort of thing, but more enhanced right along this trough axis here. And then the winds coming up and switching the whole pattern around, higher pressure shifting eastward, low pressure off the panhandle, periods of rain mixed with snow over the central areas, and then Haines, roughly Juneau to Haines on up to the north. They'll be in the form of snow. Excuse me. Then that ends tomorrow night as high pressure continues to move eastward there, builds into the Yukon. Winds come around to the north and northeast and could get pretty brisk through Lynn Canal, as well as many of the other channeled areas there of the southeast coast that see the stronger winds when high pressure builds in over the Yukon and the winds become northeast. But still some, at least to start with, could be some lingering showers over the extreme southern areas, but those will be diminishing throughout the day as the drier air moves in. Not bad here over the interior, mostly sunny, light winds, but winds picking up along the Alaska Range, back to the northwest to the Arctic coast there. In fact, could be 30 to 45 or 30 to 40 knot winds possibly here along a band there of the western Arctic coast, and then also coming into the Chukchi Sea, but possibly even Kotzebue Sound. Pretty windy there for Selawik Valley, and also along the coast here, possible gale force winds with same pattern we saw farther to the west moving eastward. So snow changing to rain mixed with snow for Bristol Bay, changing to rain over the Alaska Peninsula, changing to scattered snow showers over the Pribilofs, and rain and snow showers down here over the Aleutians with gusty winds again, probably looking at hold on to some gales out here with the main low center back to the northwest, and snow showers over the Bering Sea, getting more scattered as you get down over the Aleutians. The Arctic coast, light winds here on the east side, again with again the gradient on this part of the coastline and this part of the state. That's where the wind will be, with the driest, coldest conditions will be up here over the Yukon Flats and the north slope to the eastern Arctic coast. And should be pretty chilly right down into the Copper River Basin, and of course that's spilling into the northern panhandle as well in those northeast winds. For temperatures today along the Arctic coast, looks like they ran from 0 to about 10 below, but Point Hope was up to 3, -3, no attack there at -19, -8 at Anatuvik, and that same temperature over at Fort Yukon with an 18 at Bettles, 9 degrees at both Fairbanks and Tanana, and a -1 there at Buckland, with Kotzebue and Selawik both at 0, -1 also at Nome. Right around 0 here, right into the northern Bering Sea, with 15 at Delta Junction. There's a wind advisory there for those eastern passes through tonight or for tonight. We've seen winds gusting 25 to 40 miles an hour, with anyway to the south here 3 degrees at Gulkana. There's a 28 at Talkeetna, 35 in Anchorage, and 40 at Homer. Down to the southwest, upper 20s to lower 30s. And for the southeast coast today, anywhere from 31 at Skagway. It's kind of the exception, otherwise upper 30s to lower 40s. 40 in Cordova, 30s as I mentioned already, so go out to the west. And we've got 31 at St. Paul at 4 o'clock this afternoon, 43 there at Unalaska. And kind of cooling off gradually to the mid-30s out to Shemya, with 40 degrees at Akiak and a 39 in Kodiak. Lows tonight in the 30s for the southeast coast, teens 20s to lower 30s here for southern Alaska, and mid to upper 30s out over the Aleutians, with the below zero readings, St. Lawrence Island, Seward Peninsula up to the north, where it could get as low as 15 to 20 below here over the northwest areas, and a little below zero over the Yukon Valley, with single numbers and teens in the central interior. Highs tomorrow 0 to 10 below for the North Slope and Arctic coast, and either side of 0 here across the Seward Peninsula. Markedly warmer into the 20s, some cases the lower 30s over the southwest interior, with the warmest areas down along Bristol Bay, and into the lower 40s for the Alaska Peninsula. Mid 30s for the Shemya area, upper 30s to lower to mid 40s for the Panhandle. And flying weather, let's see, some VFR here in the downslope areas of the mountainous terrain. Obviously the coast range of the Copper River Basin, upslope again, so could see some IFR on the southern slopes there up toward Mentasta, or along the mountains here, with better conditions again on the lee side into the Tanana Valley. IFR up over the northeast, areas of IFR possible on the eastern Arctic coast, otherwise marginal, and some IFR bumping up against the western Alaska Range, extending back toward the Kilburk Mountains. VFR for Bristol Bay, IFR for the eastern Aleutians and Pribilofs, and then more IFR with the main low center out to the west, and some IFR over the eastern interior there, otherwise the Panhandle could be just kind of marginal for the Anatuvik Pass, IFR. Same thing for Adigan, both passes there, IFR. And for the Western Alaska Range, west sides will see the IFR and otherwise marginal to VFR on the eastern approach. For rainy, IFR. And for windy, marginal VFR with IFR possible on the southern entrance. Then for the Isabel Pass, marginal VFR at times. And Mentasta looks kind of marginal, as does Tanita. Could start out marginal and then go VFR. Probably be VFR most of the day there tomorrow. And for Portage, same thing, starting out marginal, going VFR. And Chilkoot and White, not really a trend. It's just occasionally, I'd call it marginal VFR with a chance of some IFR at times throughout the entire day. For the freezing levels here, surface north of the Pribilofs, eastward across the Kilbrook Mountains, and then up Cook Inlet along the coast on the eastern border there down the Panhandle, with some warmer temperatures with those winds in that next storm, 2,000 feet, and then the eastern Aleutians about 2,000 feet warmer than the Pribilof Islands. And for the southeast coast, freezing levels right around 2,000 feet, highest over the southern zones. For the icing, looks like we've got some here moving into the southeast coast, especially the southern areas. Could see some moderate stuff there moving into Prince of Wales Island and back to the northwest across Port Alexander to possibly Sitka, and spreading up toward the northern areas later in the day. And then some icing threats up here over the west central interior with that moisture. And then with the next storm coming in, icing moving to the Pribilof Islands, that's streaming eastward to the southwest coast here, especially into the afternoon, and then down in advance of the front. Looking at winds aloft, 33,000 foot wind flow here with a pretty strong jet here across the western Pacific, and where the kind of two branches here, where the northern branch meets the southern branch, it kind of puts a squeeze on the atmosphere. 190 knots there, and then splits again with a ridging off the coast. Northwest flow, kind of a damped out trough coming across, and then a pretty good jet here. But again, it splits right along the southwest coast. So we've got a trough moving through the Panhandle, and then a deep trough here into the western U.S. with the upper low up there in the Arctic. And at 3,000 feet today, we had good southwest flow, that bringing the snow up and into the interior. And but the whole pattern will be moving eastward as this system comes in, and so we'll be seeing those winds here along the southwest coast increase to southeasterly at about 30 to 45 knots. And again, 3,000 feet, much the same pattern here today. This is what brought the snow in, that southwesterly flow with the trough axis right through here. This all moving northeastward. Incoming system out there to the west pulling off to the east. And so we're going to see the pattern switch around tomorrow, and again, those southeast winds probably lasting the next couple of days. And the turbulence here, again, as the front moves in, moderate chop. I don't think there'll be any severe, but good possibility of some occasional moderate in widespread areas from the Fox Islands on up to Nunivak Island, beginning to increase along the southwest coast in the afternoon. Dropping off, I won't say it's going smooth, but it'll be less bumpy here over the Aleutians there, and then it gets bumpier again with the tight gradient associated with that low center just northwest of Shimia. Otherwise, looks pretty good for the Arctic coast all the way down into the Gulf of Alaska, Kodiak Island, Bering Strait, and much of the Panhandle here with that low there off the coast. Could see some light to isolated moderate chop, mostly over Prince of Wales Island, Port Alexander on down toward Ketchikan, but areas to the north looking pretty good. And when I return after, I think it's Stargazer, with the marine forecasts.
The cosmos in your kitchen. Welcome to Stargazers. I'm Dean Regas, astronomer from the Cincinnati Observatory.
And I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silva Pla Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida. You know what, Dean? 20 years ago, Jack Horkheimer wrote an episode of Star Hustler that really helped put the size of our solar system in perspective.
Ah, the Galaxy Gourmet and the Kitchen Cosmos episode, correct?
Exactly. So I was thinking it would be fun if we could do that episode again for our Stargazers viewers.
That's a great idea, James, because as Jack so aptly put it, 99.999 etc% of all human beings that ever lived, ourselves included, have never really had a clear concept of the scale of the universe.
To say that space is big is an understatement. How often do we think that those beautiful, sparkling points of light in the sky are actually suns like our sun? Yet they're so far away that they appear as mere points of light.
And how often do we think of the differences in the sizes between the various planets as they drift across our evening and morning skies?
Even with all the easy access we have to information about the universe, many of us still don't really relate to the size and distances of things when it comes to the night sky.
So we have a neat demonstration that can help. And you can do it at home using everyday objects you can find in your kitchen. Let's show you. Okay, let's first talk about Jupiter, Earth, and our Sun. Jupiter is our largest planet, but what does that really mean? We can easily look up the fact that we could fit 1,300 Earths inside Jupiter, or it would take 1,300,000 Earths to fill up our Sun.
Or take their distances, for example. If you drove in a car from the Sun to the Earth at 70 miles per hour, it would take you almost 150 years to make the trip. Furthermore, it would take you almost 800 years to drive from the Sun to Jupiter and almost 6,000 years to drive from the Sun to Pluto.
But numbers are easily forgotten, so if you really want to relate to the cosmos, it's best to think of it in everyday terms. And what could be more everyday than your kitchen?
So, the next time you pick up an orange, pretend that it's the Sun. Then, take a salt shaker and sprinkle some salt in your hand. If you can just pick up one of those grains of salt, that will represent the Earth circling the orange at 30 feet away.
Now, take a black bean. This little black bean represents the planet Jupiter, circling 200 feet away, or 1 city block away from the orange.
The planet Saturn would be another black bean, another city block away, or 400 feet from the orange.
Pluto, everyone's favorite dwarf planet, would be 1 speck of finely ground pepper, 10 city blocks from the orange.
But our Sun is just one of billions of stars in a family we call our galaxy. On this same scale, the Sun's closest neighbor, Alpha Centauri, is another orange 1,300 miles away.
And all the other stars are fruits of different sizes, and on the average are 2,000 miles apart. So our galaxy, from our cosmic kitchen, consists of over 100 billion oranges, grapefruits, cantaloupes, and pumpkins, occupying a space 20 million miles in diameter. And that's just one galaxy.
But to show the number of stars in all the galaxies in the visible universe, it would take more oranges, grapefruits, melons, and pumpkins than have ever grown since the beginning of time.
And remember, our Sun is just one of those oranges, with its 8 major planets and 5 dwarf planets, all mere specks of salt, pepper, and black beans, circling less than 15 city blocks away.
Or think of it like this. The next time you're in your kitchen, if we could fit our entire solar system, our Sun and all its planets, including the distances between them, inside a coffee cup, our galaxy would be the size of North America.
Now, that's a cup of joe that'll really wake you up in the morning as you keep looking up.
Welcome back. Well, trough moving through tomorrow, and as the axis crosses the inside waters, the winds will go light and variable, and then behind it with a little bit higher pressure building in northwest or west-northwest at about 20 knots, with the seas running anywhere from 8 to 10 to 12 feet, and of course less in the inside water areas. And then for Saturday, with high pressure building over the Yukon. Northerly winds 30 knots, higher gusts all through this area, and northeast 25 dropping off to about 20 knots as you head south. And along the coast, northwesterlies 20 to 25 on the south coast, and about north 20 here to northeast 25 with higher gusts out of those bays along the north coast. For the Prince William Sound zone tomorrow, variable winds, light and variable winds there, and southwest and light for Cook Inlet. Westerlies at about 20 for the North Gulf Coast and the Barren Islands. Southwest winds also from Kamishak Bay at about 15. That extends right on down Shelikof Strait. Kodiak Island on the east side there could see small craft advisory westerlies at 25, with the seas running 8 to 11 feet. And for Saturday, winds swing around to the northeast. Again, that incoming front out there to the west with the pressure falls. And so easterlies 15 to 20 knots here for the North Gulf Coast on in and then down Shelikof Strait. That'd probably be more, I think, a 20 knot wind, 22 knots, and small craft advisories there for the east side of Kodiak Island. Still light though here for the Cook Inlet, but beginning to come up in the afternoon and becoming more easterly and possibly southeasterly later on, but nothing too heavy at this point. For Bristol Bay, southeast 25. And that same forecast wind pattern southwest of Sitkinak at about 25 knots, but from a more southerly direction. Otherwise, southeasterly gales here across the Alaska Peninsula may drop off to about 30 knots in the afternoon here on the Bering Sea side, with seas 12 to 18 feet for the peninsula. Bristol Bay roughly about 7 feet, and 10 plus feet there for the zone southwest of Kodiak. And for Saturday, it looks like southeast winds at gale force for Bristol Bay, and also 40 knot southerlies, so some good gales there coming right up toward Kodiak Island, and gales back down, kind of diminishing. In fact, here over the western area, probably down to the small craft advisories like they have on the Bering Sea side. And for the Fox Islands tomorrow, gales, 40 to 45 knot winds, becoming more southerly toward the central Aleutians, and then increasing again, possibly reaching storm force here with that low center. It's definitely tight enough to, or the gradient steep enough to support that, at least for a short time in a narrow area. But gales for sure for the western Aleutians, and that'll hold through Saturday there. A little less, but not that much, 35 to 45 knots. Definitely less here as you move eastward, down to about 20 knots, Adak and Atka. 10 to 20 knots for the Fox Islands there, with seas running 5 to 6, 7, 8 feet, and heavier seas back out here to the west, 16 to 24 feet with that 45 knot wind, probably even a little higher than that with the 50 knot wind tomorrow. And for the southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island, Kuskokwim Bay, southerlies at 25 knots. That means small craft advisories all the way up to St. Lawrence Island, where the winds will be 30 knots and then swinging around to a more northeast direction. Seas 7 to 11 feet, and the heaviest winds and highest seas look like they'll be over the northern Bering here west of St. Matthew Island. We've got 45 knots, 19 feet. The Perbilofs, 35 knot southerlies. Seas may be up to 17 feet. And the Saturday outlook, those winds and seas really come down from whatever they reach tomorrow down to that 15 knot, 5 to 6 foot range. But staying southeast on the winds here and quite brisk along the southwest coast. Look for 25 to 30 knot winds, seas 8 to 10 feet, and 14 foot seas with 30 knot winds. This area, even here, it should go below gale force. For the Arctic coast, northeasterlies 10 to 15, lightest on the east side, and then picking up as you head west as you get into more of a gradient, steeper gradient, northeast 20 there, especially from Point Lay southward. You'll probably be looking at small craft advisories all the way down to the Bering Strait. And then on Saturday, winds a little different on the direction, coming east-southeast here from Tin City on up to Point Hope, and that zone from, so brisk wind advisories here all on the west side where they're 25 knots and above, and no advisories or warnings for the central and eastern Arctic coast. very light and variable there under high pressure on the east side, and then gradually picking up to about 15 here by the time you get over to Barrow. For tonight, again, showers scattering out, showers of rain and snow tapering off, with some possible clearing for the southeast coast, but we've got this fetch of moisture coming up, and rain to the North Gulf Coast, of course snow as you get inland, and breaking out here over the Cook Inlet area. Already seeing that now, but still some lingering snow showers, say from Wasilla, and especially up the valley there where that snow advisory is out for this evening, and for a couple more inches, and snow over the interior here, periods of snow all the way up to the northeast interior with lesser amounts along the north side of the eastern Alaska Range, with a wind advisory for gusts to 35 miles an hour is out through tonight as well. Another system bringing some more snow into the southwest coast there, especially the Kuskokwim Delta southward into Bristol Bay, and then that'll be sliding right up against the Alaska Range through some IFR tomorrow there. Otherwise, the interior up to the northwest, winter weather advisories out for a couple more inches of snow tonight and 1 to 2 inches tomorrow in the forecast for both the Koyukuk and Kobuk River valleys. The Bering Strait, still a little breezy here with the coldest temperatures back through this area. Again, near zero today, some areas falling below zero, even with the wind tonight. And then this front bringing the wind and rain back into the eastward here to the Aleutians, with again the storm force winds out here with that low near Shemya. Scattered rain and snow showers, mostly southern Kodiak Island, and behind the front, falling freezing levels, changing the rain back into a scattered rain and snow shower situation, but probably turned all snow with snow levels dropping to sea level out towards Shemya. And let's see, tomorrow, rain over the southeast coast, rain in the eastern Aleutians. And for Saturday, high pressure and kind of chilly over the interior and that front right up.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
It's never too early to set expectations and goals for your child's education. The UA College Savings Plan provides opportunities that can help you reach your educational savings goals. Save in Alaska. Study anywhere. There is more information available by calling 1-888, the number 4, and then Alaska. This message sponsored by the UA College Savings Plan.